with the glare issue, okay? Yes?
Are you also going to talk about how to photograph for their cell phone?
Yeah, yes. Talk about that as well. I'll be using this camera for now to talk about it, but the same thing's applicable to a cell phone, and Michael will handle that a little bit as well. Okay? Yes.
My problem isn't all to do with this, it's also sending a file. Is there
Sure.
going to be anything about that?
Absolutely. That's, I think, where we'll wrap up. We'll talk a little bit about capturing the image, editing the images, and then, some file format issues as well. How do what's the best way to send images along? Because, your concern or concerns are to make sure we have a high resolution image of our work, and then you can't do anything with it because you're limited to a 1 or 2 meg file to upload and change. So doing some of those changes and formattings will be things that we probably will sit down and
Great.
to answer those questions, okay?
Great.
And it really is kind of set up as kind of a bit of a demo and then more of a answer question format. And that's when I'll be constantly handing the mic. The mic to Mike. All right. So one of the things I just want, yes.
Sorry to tell you, I do pastel.
Yes.
I was like in rays
Mm-hmm.
and it's very reflective and it's very difficult to get a copy of that.
What we're going to be talking about first, as far as eliminating glare, not only works for pastel, but also works for images behind glass.
Yes.
Okay, so people that work in pastels, you have a frame piece. You don't want to take it out of the frame every time you want to shoot it. This will work for that as well. Okay, which is huge. I know people will spend hundreds of dollars to frame a piece, and then they have to remove the backing off, take it out, and then they're getting pastel over matte. This is a wonderful approach.
And this is so powerful. Like the polarizing lens we're going to talk about is a powerful thing. You can actually go to a lake and eliminate the reflection on the lake and see into the lake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's what this is all for.
Originally developed just for that. And what we're going to be talking about is going to be inexpensive. So basically, we have a setup here, and for those of you that do have the printouts, follow along with the quick sketch. It's also on Mike's website. But basically, it consists of 2 light sources. They're set up a 45-degree angle from the picture you're photographing. Okay. I have nice studio lights at home, but I just brought cheap clamp lights, $8 a piece, at Home Depot. Nothing's really terribly expensive here we're talking about. Camera in the center, straight back from the piece. Now, if you can see a little bit, we have a couple things going on. I wetted down this painting just to get some glare on the edges, and you can see even Mike's painting in the background. This beautiful portrait, you can see that that's picking up glare as well because it's varnished. Because you always have that challenge too. I varnished my painting and finished it off, and now I can't photograph it anymore. So basically, all we're looking at doing are, as Mike said, the polarizing filters. Can everyone still hear me if I put this down, or is this needed for the video?
It's just up to you guys. Can you guys hear okay in the back?
Can you guys hear okay?
Okay.
We're good. All right. Front row, if you want me to be quiet. So there are a couple of components. One is two linear filter films. Okay. Linear is almost microscopic, where smaller than what you can see with the naked eye are fine lines running vertically through these sheets. In fact, if I put them over each other, you can see directly through it. If I start turning to the side, you can see those lines will go black. Okay?
Is that just from cross-hatching?
That's just from cross-hatching, exactly. So it just fills the space between the lines. So these are linear filters, okay? You can clip them over any light, okay? As long as they're placed in the same orientation. Now on the back of the sheets I handed out, these are really inexpensive. 8x10 sheets, on Amazon. You can find them. I'm not making any recommendations on where to buy them from, but you can find them on Amazon. 3 sheets is about $13. Okay, really inexpensive. It's just simply a matter of, covering your light. This won't be quite as dramatic here today because what you really want to do is photograph in a room with no light source other than the lights that are filtered. So we do have some ambient light in here as well. The second piece that you want for your camera, or to hold in front of your iPhone, or to hold in front of your tablet, is what's called a radial polarizing lens. Okay. Basically, all that means is it's the same filter we have here, but it's set on a little pivoting mount, so that once it's attached to the front of your camera, you can do with the lens exactly what I did with those 2 sheets going individually. Okay. So, can people see this right from the laptop? Okay. You'll notice that there's a lot of glare on the portrait in the back, and there's a lot of glare on what the canvas. There's a lot of glare on the piece in front, and I have a larger version of the filter on the camera, and all I'm just going to do is rotate that, and you can see that.
So, imagine it. Just
All of the glare is eliminated from the pieces. Okay. One of the other things that you may want to consider too is, I don't know if anybody works on dark artwork. Paints dark, works dark. A lot of times you lose a sense once it dries out unless you oil up the canvas. You lose a sense for the richness of the colors. You lose a sense for what the darks really look like until it dries out before you varnish it. This actually allows you to take a look at your canvas without it'll give you a sense for what that painting will look like varnished as well. So just simply taking a look, because what you're looking at when you look at that frosted painting, the frosted darks, those kind of dull colors. All that really is glare off the individual brush strokes in your paintings. Okay, it's not that the paint is actually dull, it's just that those little tiny ridges in your paint strokes are really picking up glare. So it appears as dullness, but what it really is just glare off the surface of the canvas. And that's all varnish does, is really just evens out the surface a little bit. So if you're looking at your canvas and it's dull, you can do this photo setup, get a sense for what your painting is going to look like varnished. Okay, so do I want to look, and all those things that are lost in your darks too up here again. But again, this is a great starting point, I think, for the setup at home for yourself. Again, you're really talking, depending on the size of your camera, you can get this lens for anywhere between $10, $20, $30. You can go really high end filters. You can spend $150 for this as well, but it's not going to make that much of a difference. Any difference for what we're doing here? Yes.
Somewhere around here we could get a lens like that.
The filters, you can get that. You can get them on Amazon. There's a couple. I'm sorry, I go everything for Amazon these days. You can go on Amazon and they'll pull up 40, 50 different suppliers of the same thing. You can really check out the prices. I did give you an indication on the back of the sheet. I did 2 searches on the back of the printout for the sheets as well as the filter, just so you know what to search for. I'm not making any recommendation. I picked things on the low end here. Again, but for the sake of $10 for simple light clamps, another $15 for the sheets, another 10 or so. You're really talking $40 and really making things really quite simple for yourself. And yes, go ahead, please.
Please push that filter, that classic sheet we have, over an iPhone and take your photograph.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. Now you'd still want to do the lighting the same way. On the poles. And Mike has a nice, really simple, I don't know if anybody has one of these at home, will make your life much easier if you're using an iPhone or a tablet, is one of these mounts for your, yeah, right. So, yeah, so you can do the same thing, and in that case, all you're doing is just holding the lens in front. You're just holding the filter in front of the lens. And then you take it. So again, it doesn't require, an SLR. It's great if you have it, but it doesn't require it.
Yes.
Can you put that mount on any tripod?
Yeah.
It's got the, what's off, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I could put that on my
Screws right on.
Yeah.
or a tripod for the easel light.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're universal mounts. They also have, once you have the universal mount, they also have things that are nice little gorilla tripods. They have these little stake arms. You can wrap them around poles. You do all kinds of things. You don't even necessarily need a tripod. Just need something to clip to. Yes. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, son.
I'll just make broad gestures. Anybody jump in there.
You may cover this, but the wattage of the light bulbs, the type and color of the light, and the distance that you shoot.
Absolutely. You'll just the more brightness, the more lumens you have, the better off you are. Okay. For an LED bulb, if these weren't LED bulbs, these should probably be melting by now. These are equivalent to about 125 watt bulbs right now. What I'll end up doing in my studio, my studio lights are brighter than this, but it doesn't really matter. Daylight is really what you want to be going for. Daylight's about 55, between 53 and 5500 Kelvin. And if you take you don't really have to, we can talk more about this in detail, but if you want to simply look for daylight bulbs, to emulate daylight, or if you're looking at Kelvin on the scale, most you'll find for LED bulbs, unless you go to a professional bulb, is going to be about 5200 Kelvin, which is close enough for you guys. If you're going to a photo supply store and you're getting natural daylight, you'll notice if you've ever gone to Jerry's or Blick's and you look at their studio lights, and all of a sudden you look at these and they look like just like these cans, but they have daylight bulbs in. All of a sudden, a light stand like this, instead of costing $30, is $250.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where getting to know your camera, getting to know some of the photo editing tools makes a lot of sense. I don't know if you've ever looked at your camera and you've ever noticed anybody familiar with the term white point?
Enough white balance.
White balance, white point. Yeah. Basically, what that does is it compensates for the color or type of light you have. Some cameras, the simpler cameras, the point and shoot cameras, might have automatic white balancing. Okay, that'll adjust for wherever you are naturally. Others will have things like, are you shooting in fluorescent? Are you shooting daylight? Are you shooting incandescent? That's basically what the camera's doing, is making that adjustment as closely as possible to accommodate for daylight. Okay, it sounds really complicated, but fortunately the cameras are so smart these days. The iPhones, they're incredible. Knowing why you buy something is great, but unless you're really getting into it, I hate to say it, unless you feel differently, you don't really have to worry too much about it. Okay, know that warm light, lower number, cold light, higher number. All right, so right in the middle, daylight, kind of a balance between the two. 5300 Kelvin to 5500 Kelvin is what generally is daylight. So you just want to get close to that as possible. Okay.
I think the distance.
The distance, again, I'm a little tighter than I normally would be. This is fine. I find that for me, I have a very small studio. I have a very small room next to the living room that I paint in, the studio. But I'm usually back, my lights are back from the canvas about 4 feet or so. The other thing too is you can have something very nice like what Mike has here, a nice little soft box diffuser over the light, so you don't even have that point light reflection. If you're using LED bulbs, you can also just drape in front of the filter or behind the filter, sandwich between the filter and the box. You can also just put a little piece of fine muslin back there just to soften that. It doesn't even have to be this. This is fantastic. They also have little things you can drape over the lights as well. It just softens it that much easier, that much nicer. I'm sorry. Yes.
I just discovered that there is a light bulb made by a company called CIT, where they adjust right on the bulb, go from low amber to daylight. It's actually
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic. My studio lights, I usually have these in addition to flat LED panels, and you can control the light value, the intensity, and also the temperature as well. And they have gotten so inexpensive. They're really affordable. But again, I just wanted to start with what you can do. Going to Home Depot. These bulbs were from Home Depot. And just cheaper filters. It does not have to be. But like anything else, you can spend $1,000 on your lighting. $2,000. Yes.
Excuse me, you get that whole lamp cheap at Home Depot.
Yeah.
How do you get the tripods? Where you buy those?
The light stands are actually again. You can look on Amazon for them. There's a company that I bought. These actually came with my light boxes. I just have this clamped onto the side because I didn't want anybody to get distracted with, the more expensive. But these are from a company called Newer, two E's. I don't know why. NEEWER. Yeah. Very inexpensive panel lights, but really very nice. Really nice. Yeah.
Ladder back chairs than the pitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, can you hold this for me? Right. Grab any chair from the next room. It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
If we're all artists in this room and you have a Dick Blake art supply catalog, they have these that hold your camera.
Yeah, they're really not that expensive.
No.
Especially for holding up simple lights. When you start going into photography supply, professional photography supply, you're paying. People are spending $400 or $500 on the light stand because they're mounting a $2,000 light on top of it. So they don't want to put a $2,000 light on top of one of these things and knock it over like I knocked my laptop off the table. So yes.
So sorry.
No worries.
Issues on.
No, it was just that you can really get in inexpensively, and then like anything else, golf clubs, anything, you can spend as little, or the top end really never stops. So down.
I'm curious what you both think. I tend to prefer using like digital SLR to shoot art. And cell phone tends to sharpen everything. You really oversaturate color. So what is your experience, and do you correct that?
Yes, I do too. What ends up happening is the smartphones, especially the iPhones, are so good at seeing through things that what you're not seeing with the naked eye, you paint to what you see. A lot of times the cameras will see so much more than you ever want, or is natural. So whether it's color intensity, brush stroke, things that you painted over, sometimes you'll be seeing through layers of paint or scumble that you can no longer see the old drawing, and all of a sudden your whole history is showing up. The one thing, if you shoot with an SLR, you can take the image that you receive. You can shoot. This is going to get to the formats a little bit later. Mike, I'm going to go away here. You can shoot JPEG, where the images are saved as a JPEG or a TIFF file, if you are shooting a SLR, you start getting comfortable with managing and editing your own photos. I'm only shooting raw images these days, okay? Basically, instead of letting the camera, the processor in the camera or the smartphone make those decisions, I'll get the raw images, and before it even opens in Photoshop or the image editing program, you're making those fine-tuned adjustments, which is really nice. And then you're bringing an image much closer to where you want to start before you even begin your editing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's something you can play with in your camera. If you shoot raw, I don't know if you have or not, but if that's an option, just make those adjustments when you bring that raw image into Photoshop before you even open it up and get it as close as you can there.
Great.
Yeah.
So you can determine JPEG from the beginning, but
You can set
Well, I can explain
set
it.
it up
Yeah, it depends on what you're shooting with. If you're shooting
with
with
the SLR,
an SLR,
but
some-
not with the iPhone.
yeah. Well, again, it depends on the iPhone. Well, some SLRs give you the option, especially with manual or format options in the setup. Out of the box, generally, the point and shoot SLRs, okay, much more like a smartphone, are generally going to be saving by default as a PNG file or JPEG. Okay, you have to go into your settings and choose and kind of override the default, because they want to make the default settings. Hey, I got this cool camera, pull out of the box, you point and shoot, you got something you can share with people. That's what they want to do. They don't want anybody to say, oh, I got to think or read the instruction manual. All right, the instruction manual is for later. Okay, now what can I do? But does that make sense?
When you're pointing that out.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, when you set this up, do you use aperture priority or do you put it in chromatic when it's sitting up there?
When I generally, my default when I'm outside or just doing things quickly, I do aperture priority. If I'm really doing something where I'm capturing, because I do a lot of time lapse, I'll do a lot of time lapse while I'm doing, while I start a painting and stuff, just for myself, and so it's something to share. I shoot a lot of manual. So, and if you're doing time lapse, you really have to have everything manual focus, manual aperture setting, manual white point, because every time you step or move, the camera's going to adjust. So more for video than anything else, but I usually stay with manual.
Just photograph a painting. Would you recommend like F11 or something?
Again, if you're photographing a painting, and depending on how far away you are from the camera and what kind of lens you have, a tighter aperture is better. Okay, greater depth of field, because what you'll find if you're shooting like a wide open aperture, this might need more detail if you want to know, but wide open camera, letting as much light in the camera as possible means it's a shorter depth of field. Okay, so if I'm shooting a picture of Mike, wide open 2.8, Mike's going to be in focus. Things outside are going to be out of focus. So if I'm shooting my painting, the same thing's true. I'm focusing the center of my painting. All right, crystal sharp. My painting's 48 by 48, and I'm like shooting at 2.8. All right, shallow depth of field. The corners of the painting are going to be slightly softer than the center of the painting where I focused, because it's a different focal length. You wouldn't think so, but it does really make a difference. Thank you. Okay.
Could you repeat that?
All right. Yes. So depth of field.
Yes.
Okay. If you have the light source and you have the shutter speed that you can accommodate, less light coming into the camera.
Right.
Okay. A higher f-stop. You're better off with a much greater depth of field when you're shooting your artwork. It may seem trivial, but if you're working large, it might not make much of a difference for a small piece, but if you work large, if you focus in the center of the painting and you have a shallow depth of field, the corners of your painting are going to be out of focus slightly.
Does it affect the saturation at all if you're shooting it?
It does a little bit on the type of camera you have or the lens.
Yeah.
That's why once photographers start getting a little bit crazy with their equipment, they'll pay for a ridiculous lens, because they'll notice that not only is the focal tightness more consistent across the lens, but also the saturation. Everything coming through the center is more saturated than the elements on the outside. Everything gets a little softer at the outside with a less expensive lens. But for the most part, it's not going to notice too much. The other thing you can do too is if you have an issue with that, back off from the camera. Don't come as tight as you can if you have the resolution on your camera, and then you have less keystoning, less warping of the image, and then you crop tighter the image. So just back off from the image a little bit, and it'll be a little cleaner. Yeah.
Would you mind if we held questions until the end so we could like focus?
Oh,
Because the questions are going. Yeah, I mean, and I think you guys have specific things that you want to say to everybody.
yeah.
Instead of
No, that.
Everybody's individual.
Absolutely. On that note.
Yeah.
On that note.
Thanks for the
On that note, yeah, no, thanks. Mike, I'm sorry, I just started fielding questions,
I'm
I started stepping on, I started stepping on what you were gonna be talking
I'm
about.
actually wanna build off of Brian's too, because so how he has it set up, that's you'll see when you get to the QR code and you look at the webpage I set up for you. I got the same pretty much. We didn't even talk about it. We had the same exact design, so that tells you something. You could use that. With the angle there, if you paint thickly, right? So if you paint thickly, that paint is coming off the canvas, or you have very thick canvas, or coarse canvas. You're going to get shadows. That's why you've got that coming in both directions. So just keep that in mind when you're doing it. You might have it too close. You might have it too much where it's, raking the painting. So if you have it too much over here, you're going to rake the painting. You're going to create shadows. So just kind of, you got to play with it a little bit. And that's the good thing about the soft boxes.
Yeah.
Right, and I've got a link to soft boxes on there. So if you want to get out your phone, take a quick shot of that QR code, you can follow along with me. I got the paper over here printed out, and we can go through it as we get down. Polarizing lenses, keep in mind that once you put one of those on your camera, it's going to drop the light that's coming into the camera as well. So you're going to have to compensate for that. It's going to be a little bit dark, about 2 stops, is it?
Yeah.
About 2 stops darker. The other thing you can do if you paint, so Brian paints big, and if he had one here, you do like 6-foot ones, right?
Yeah.
So if you get the big ones like that, you either need more of those lights, or you can use shop lights, those big ones with the tube lights.
Yeah.
You can use those, stand those up straight, and put a polarizing filter in front of that. And it would have to be a sheet of polarizing. They're coming for me.
Sorry, time's up. Didn't mean to use it all up. Sorry about that.
Well, they found me out. All right, so we'll transition a little over into more of the iPad and iPhone. I, like Brian, use I've got a mirrorless camera here. This is a Canon M50. I think this is about $500. Might be a little less by now. They have a new version, the M50 Mark II or something like that. So if you're looking for a camera, I really recommend this one. I love this one. This one actually has a lens. I got a 50mm portrait lens on here. But like Brian said, back up, I found that you have a lot of issue with the warping on the edges of your paintings if you don't, and then you're gonna have a heck of a time editing it later on. So pull back a little bit, and you won't have that kind of bowing at the edge of your picture. If you need help with editing photos, if you got kids or grandkids, they usually know those photo things pretty well. Give them $5, have them edit it for you. They'll feel great. You'll feel great, and you don't have to worry about it. Just go back to painting. I, like Brian, would like to. I like Brian. I like to go for the cheapest solution I can. Artist, sue me, right? You want to go the cheapest solution. You don't have to spend all your life's earnings on photography equipment when you just want to sit there and paint all day. So I've got some options here. We'll start with the photo editing on top here. So there's a couple of programs I would use. You do not have to use Photoshop. I love Photoshop. I've been using it 25 years. Problem is now they're going, after what was it, maybe about 10 years ago, where they went to a subscription. I don't want to pay every month. Yep, I stopped doing that. So if you're looking for a free one on your iPhone or iPad, I've got this one here. You can see it's hard to see here, but it's got this little camera lens with some colors around it. It's a photo editor that's free. It's called Photo Editor, and actually it's on it's actually the first link. So everything on there is a link on my website there, and you can just click on it, and it'll take you to what we're talking about. And you open it up, and you select from your camera roll. So I'll select this sideways horse here, that's fine, whatever. And it'll say Classic Editor, Pro Editor. Pro Editor is the one you pay for. You want to spend a couple bucks and get it, that's fine, right? You get a couple more options. I just use the basic one. You hit Classic Editor, and all your stuff shows up down here. You can crop here, right? You can just drag and drop, that kind of thing. You can do 3, 4, 4, 6, 5, 7, whatever. Cancel that out. And you just scroll through these. You can change the contrast, the focus, whatever you want. Generally don't play with.
On there?
What's that?
What is that on there, Cal?
No, it's a horse. So I wouldn't play with the enhance or effects, because that makes it more like filtery kind of Instagram-y thing. Don't even bother with that. It's gonna mess up it's not gonna look like you're painting anymore. The one thing you gotta watch out for, especially when you're on iPads and things like that, even on computers, it's gonna change the color of your painting. The other problem is your panel might not be calibrated to real life. So it may look good on your iPad or your laptop, but once you get it to someone else's, it's gonna completely be different. Or you print it out, it's gonna look different, like what's going on here. So generally what I like to do is like to put it between different devices just to see if I need, because I've got one laptop that for some reason I cannot calibrate it, but it's close enough. So just keep that in mind. It may not look exactly like, because I sent a painting in to Portrait Society and I got it there, and it was, on their screens, it was too red in like the hand. I was like, oh, I didn't know that was like that. Messed it up. The painting's not like that. So it may look good on your screen. Just keep in mind it might change on someone else's screen.
Wow.
So that's one, that photo editor. And that one you can use on iPhone. I don't know if it could be on Android, or they might, and there's so many out these days, you might have a free one on Android too. But I don't like to paint for anything, so.
On your laptop too?
I don't have that one on my laptop, no. But the one I have on my laptop, that's the next one on the list. Well, I didn't put it on here, but GIMP, it's called GIMP, G-I-M-P. That's a free, like Photoshop kind of thing. I think it has a high learning curve.
Oh.
So I just yeah, exactly. I backed off. But the one that I do use, and it's the next one on the list, called Affinity Photo 2. This thing, $70, one-time fee. They update it like every week. It's fantastic. And it's Affinity, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so it's one-time fee. They update it all the time. It's about as much of a learning curve as Photoshop. So not a big deal. It's pretty, there's some things are in different places. If you're used to Photoshop, you got to go looking for them. But it does the basic stuff that I want, which is bring the raw file in. I can edit the raw file and take it from there. If you go all the way to the bottom of the page, I did add a YouTube video for people who do shoot raw or want to shoot raw. This is a guy I watch a lot. His site is called Pix Imperfect. He does all these Photoshop tutorials, and he's phenomenal. Like, he just is so clear, so concise, and just knows how to teach you. So he was talking about raw files, and I'll give you his analogy. It's actually in this video. A raw file is basically a potato. You can do whatever you want with it. You can make French fries, you can make potato chips, whatever. But a JPEG is like potato chips. Can you make it back into a potato? No. Can you make it into anything? You can make it into fries? No. So the potato is the raw file. So the raw file basically captures everything on site as if you were to take like 100 different photos in all different kind of settings, right? So you get to your computer and you go, oh no, I got this JPEG and I took this picture and it's too cool. I really can't adjust this that well. Well, if you have the raw file, you can. Right. You can go in there and say, oh, okay, well, I can change the lighting completely. I can change the black point, the white point. I can change the clarity. I can change everything. So if you just keep in mind, if you do shoot raw, I shoot raw and JPEG. So when I take a picture, it comes out raw and JPEG. You get them both. Thing is, you would need a big card because the raw files take up a lot more. They have a lot more information in them, so they're going to take up more space. So cards are so cheap these days. You can get a 120 gig, little SD card for $13. But all right. So that's photo editing. There's so many other ones out there, but these are the ones I use. So if you're interested in checking those out, I would do that. I think Affinity Photo might have a demo, so check that out. You might be able to do like a 30-day demo.
Can I mention something?
Yeah.
On top of that? Let's see, Mike was so nice, he didn't interrupt me. Sorry. No, I was just gonna make a suggestion. Is that, teaching, 'cause previous life, teaching people how to use some software, or teaching people, going through things, or going through some things on the job. Some of these applications, Affinity is pretty deep, but if you're working in Photoshop, some of these applications are enormous. You can spend so much time going through tutorials on aspects and functions of the application that you will never use and get so confused. YouTube that you mentioned is a fantastic thing to do. If you're learning some of these editing programs for the first time or just starting to get into them, whether I would start with what you want to do and look for a tutorial on just that. Okay, because if you use it every day, you're going to remember it. If you spend a week and a half in Photoshop tutorials going through learning from start to finish, it might be the 5th, 6th day into the tutorials before you find something that is applicable to your everyday use and literally. So if it's straightening up the edges of the camera, getting rid of the keystone, how to distort and edit your image, look for a tutorial on that. If it's for cropping, look for a tutorial on that. Start with what you need to do. Go to the link that Mike set out for you. The guy does some great demos, but do it, kind of approach your editing software kind of task-based, okay? It'll be much more digestible for you. It won't be so overwhelming. Instead of, great, you go to the Photoshop website or you go to Photoshop tutorial book, it's a 600-700 page PDF file.
You don't need it all.
You don't need it.
2 pages, that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, because we just need to crop and
You need to crop
That's
and
it.
distort and then
Yeah,
edit
just
color.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. And so we don't need all the bells and whistles. All right, so I'm going to jump down. We talked about the polarizing lenses and film. I'm jumping down to lighting. So Brian got his lighting. This is actually not the lighting I use, but this is an option. I have, I bought, they come in a pack of 2. I got them on Amazon. Although I do prefer lately, I do like to shop at this 2 places, B&H Photo and Adorama. And those are both really trusted camera sites, which I did get a newer from them, which is a panel. I actually linked that in here too. So that's on their studio line. That's the one I use at home for my studio for still lifes, for portraiture, so things like that. I like to use that one. It's got the warm and cool dials on it, right? Mix and match, that kind of thing. They're great lights. $169 for 2 of them. Can't go wrong. And it comes with the
stands.
Yeah, fantastic. But this is great. And this, I think I spent this. I think I one I linked to is a different one than I have. It's the same one, just different link because mine was currently not available. I think I paid $100 for 2 of these with all of that, and it came with the reflective ones too. So like with the black one with the reflective light in there, so if you want to light a model, you can direct it from the bottom. It's got big lights on here, but these are 5,500 Kelvin as well.
Is that the adjustable?
Yeah, this is just. Oh, you mean the light itself?
The temperature you were
Oh, not in this one. No, this was the LED panel. Was the newer one? Yeah, yeah. And then we got like a few Russian barn doors and $170 for 2 of those. That was and came with that. The only thing you can add to it would be the batteries. If you want to take outside or something like that. But yeah, so that's a cheap option. You've got this diffuser. You can just hang your sheet on this line too. But they can do it. My recommendation though, so I like to shoot, my main pictures will come just like Brian does, with a DSLR because I want that high resolution, that quality. One thing I will do is I don't use any setup like this. I actually use something that takes a little more patience, an overcast day. That's all I wait for. I wait for an overcast day, I put it out on the porch, and I'm good to go. Yeah, because I'm lazy. I don't have a place to set this up. Yes, lazy. There you go, Robert. Yeah, so that's the way I do it. Yeah. So if it didn't work, if I got back to my computer and I was like, oh, this looks garbage, yes, I'll set it up and I'll go through all the rigmarole and get my stuff set up and do it that way. And I have done that. But usually I'm just like, no, I can't take a photograph today. Tomorrow's copy. Cool. And I'll just go do it then. No big deal. Polarizing filters, highly recommended. You don't. If you have one on your camera, lowers the light. Just keep in mind that when you put it in front of your cell phone too, the same thing might happen. I don't have an experience doing that, so you have to mess with it in the lighting. You might need more light in that case. Whereas with DSLR, you can actually adjust that in the inside. Open the aperture at 12, whatever. But I don't know if you can do that with my phone's a little older, so I can't pretty much with it. If you're taking pictures, please get a tripod. Doesn't have to be expensive. This was probably free. I think I might have gotten this on Facebook. Okay. So I've got 3 or 4 different ones, heavy duty up to down to these. I don't tend to use this too much because this gets a little wobbly, but you just gotta check the tripod. But
It's one of those features where you can do this.
You can do this. You can do that. Yeah. Well, the reason I do that is so if it depends on the size of the painting, and if I usually lean it a little bit on an overcast day, and then I'll shoot it not quite straight on. I'll shoot it at an angle. and then I'll go into the photo editing program and pull that thing into view. The thing is, you can't do too much of an angle because, like Brian said, if it gets farther away, you're gonna have the farther away being more blurry. So, but use a tripod, use a timer. You don't want it to be like this, right? It doesn't defeat the purpose of those. Yeah, so you put a 2 second, 5 second, 10 second timer on it, you'll be fine. Press the button and wait. Yeah, and wait. So, all right, I'm gonna show you something on this iPad here. So when I'm taking a picture just quickly for the internet or whatever, sometimes they come out fine enough that I don't have to mess with the DSLR. So next thing you can do is this. So I took a picture of my painting over there. You want to do any copyright infringement, anyone else? So I took it at an angle, right? Managed to get no glare pretty much on it. Okay, so no problem. All right, this is just right, built in right into the camera of the iPad. Okay, all you have to do. So what I did, you see, I kind of did almost exactly square, right? So there's no this line at the bottom isn't going angling like this. I didn't do it at it's crazy angle because you don't want compound angles. You don't want 2 angles. I don't want to be messed up this way and this way. 1 angle's fine because otherwise it's not going to work. So if this thing were like this,
Is it okay if we walk forward just for a second for the
Oh, yeah,
folks
sure.
in the back?
Yep.
Just to
Yep.
show them that
You got it.
example the angle.
Hey, so did you have the
the camera, the painting's right there and more flat. So I kind of held it up so that I could avoid the glare, and then made sure I had everything straight. Now I did this holding it, but I would recommend doing it with a tripod, right? So they make ones for iPad, I know iPads too that hold it, because otherwise that's not going to stretch to fit this. So what you do is you basically just take edit right there, you go into crop, and then there's options down here to straighten, and then you just drag this in this way. You drag the slider here. But don't let my hand big enough. Yes, it is. Just barely. I cannot palm a basket. I can. See, and then what I do is I drag it down until the edges are straight, like that. See, and then you take the crop, not distorted, and then drag that, crop it up like that. Maybe a little bit more this way. Drag it in. Done. Swear.
Yeah, the phones have gotten so powerful.
That's not in raw, correct?
No, this is just a JPEG.
Raw
Yeah.
with an iPad or with the phone?
That's I don't know. I don't know. The newest phones they shoot in RAW. Does anyone know?
I'll take some.
No.
What's the question?
They're doing the new phones shooting RAW. Like the
I believe most of them.
This is.
They have the option. It takes some time to
Just
adjust
time
the
settings.
but
I think. No, we're gonna read it. Facial, Canon, what make videos, and a lot of options, new options, but no, I don't see anything raw wise. Unless it's up here. Oh wait, there you go. Yep, raw. Right there on top.
Wow.
Yep, you got it.
Now, wait, I should try that.
That's that's a newer phone too, so like mine doesn't have. I got a 2020. Yep.
Okay,
So
is that the one
when
with
you're
3
deciding what angle,
16
how
probably.
angle you want your camera to shoot it, what dictates how angled it is?
When
That
the-
seems like a lot to me. Like I've done photo editing before, and that's pretty crooked.
When the glare goes away. When the glare goes away.
Oh, okay.
But if it's more than like, if it's more than this, I wouldn't do it because then again, that farther part is going to be more blurry.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So finding it, you can even do it sideways too. If you just a little bit off over here, I get a better view that way. Yeah. So find the best, the closest to straight on you can. How about that?
Okay.
Yes.
And as Mike said, though, pay attention to your edges. So either the top or the sides are parallel with the top or side of the frame. Okay, you only want that kind of keystone or angle going in one direction.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to be going back and forth in filters.
Well, you could. I mean, if you're good enough at setting it up straight on
Yeah.
and leaving some edge, like I could have done it. I could have left the whole frame in there.
Right.
And then not work because even cell phones have that low camera distortion. It's minor, but it's there because they're rounded. So you can actually, as long as you straighten it out and then you can crop it down to just inside the frame, you can do that too. Yeah. All right. So I think that's the other link I have on here is the softbox. That is, if you click on it and look at it, it's just the softbox, and what that is a diffuser, and you put it over a light. So if you want to go crazy and start, getting into it and really getting a good, system going, you can do that. But I put that as an option. But yeah, but any of the studio lights are good. Like we said, 5,500 Kelvin is fine. More light, the better. Obviously, you don't want to wash anything out, but you got to see. The camera has to see. I think that's it. I got some tips in the bottom. You can read those later online. Some tips for doing this whole setup. I can't read it right now because there's a car.
Need some help.
I can put that's what I always wondered. My dad, I can't even point at space anymore. Go with that. Yes.
On one of your tips, you talked about putting a white piece of paper.
Yes.
Are you talking about putting it next to the photo or
The painting. So if you're taking a picture of your painting, you can actually put a piece of white paper right next to it or just behind the frame. Then when you bring it into your editing program, you can say, okay, I know that's white. And if it doesn't look white on the screen, you can adjust until it gets white, and then your painting will be closer to value and color that you need.
So it's like a white
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like a little reference back there.
Could you talk a little more about the calibration, because that seems pretty important if you think you've got it all figured out at home and then it's not going to look right when it gets to
Oh,
something.
you mean for the So the calibration I'm not really good at, but your monitor. If you have a desktop computer, generally you can because you were Adam's right. Yeah. So you got a lot going on there. You were always calibrating stuff. So Brian's probably better to answer about the calibration. I know you can do it. I just really haven't done it. So
Yeah.
I kind of send it back to you because
Oh, jeez.
you know that.
No. It's just, there's just so much.
This is different. This is for calibrating the actual monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's so much. I guess the easiest thing one of the simplest ways to look at it, at least for me, okay, is you can make fine-tune adjustments to the color of the image itself. Okay, you can make those adjustments to change the white point, change the saturation of the image in the editing software. Okay, your goal should be to get the image as close to reality as possible in the camera as a starting point. Okay, that way as you're coming through, now when you open up in Photoshop, if it look good in the camera, okay, if it look good on your iPhone, if it look good in the camera, and it looks off now when you open it in Photoshop, okay, now I know I have a little bit of adjustment to go. One of the things I always got in the habit of doing, though, is because if people are going to be judging this stuff online, judging it in a browser. Now, if you're on your computer and you're used to looking things online and things look pretty good in your browser setup, if the resolution looks fine, if everything looks green to you, then yeah, we have to really talk about adjusting the calibration of your monitor. But if everything looks pretty good to you across the board, whether you're watching video, whether you're visiting websites, if things look good in your browser, great. A starting point that's really simple for you, if you save your image as a JPEG, you think you got it pretty close, drag it on top of your browser window. It'll open up the image in the browser. You don't have to upload it. You don't have to do anything. You just drag the image from your desktop right to your browser window. It'll open up. You're looking at it, how it looks online. Okay? If it still looks true to your photo, if it still looks true to your image, you're off to a pretty good start. It's a good test. It's a good test for you. Okay. Now the calibration itself, there's going to be two main areas for the calibration it's going to be dealing with. Okay, it's going to be I don't want to say it's going to be way too complicated, but too many variables to go into here. But it's going to be your monitor. Okay, if you have a desktop computer, calibration is going to be your monitor. Okay, so you're going to look for the software associated with your monitor to run that. Okay. Basically, it's an application very similar to when you want to clean your printer. Okay, it'll just run through this process and check all the images across. They have really high-end things to adjust calibration, but as I said, look for your specific computer online, your monitor. If you really think it's going to be an issue, just look for a tutorial on your specific model for how to calibrate your monitor. They're all so very different. Again, like photo equipment, we have things where it's actually a camera that suction cups on your monitor itself, and then the camera runs in the software on the computer. They do the true calibration. So it can get pretty hairy. But if you're happy with the way your camera photographs your work as a starting point, and then you get it on your computer and it looks like your camera, awesome. You're off to a really good start. There might be some fine tuning. But if it no longer looks like it did on your camera, okay, and it's different, don't adjust the photo to look like your camera. Adjust your light settings on your monitor. Get closer that way first as a starting point. Now this looks like my starting point in my camera. Then from there, adjust using the editing software. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll take a quick photo with my cell phone and I'll upload it to Facebook here. And then I'll go look at it on my laptop later, like, oh, that's awful. Like, and then I have to take it down because I didn't realize that the colors weren't exactly the same, or I messed something up, or it's something with the smaller form factor. I don't know. So just so you got to keep that in mind too when you're watching that.
And this comes full circle to one of the questions that was being asked early on. So adjusting what's coming into your camera if you're dealing with an SLR is going to be aperture, how much light's coming in. The lens focal length, but more after that, once you start talking about that, it's really the white point. Okay. Once you find the settings, past the default settings, if you really want to adjust what's being taken, start playing around with that a little bit, because the saturation can also be affected by the white point as well. They have white point for the color temperature, but they also, once you start getting into some of the settings in the cameras, you can also start adjusting the intensity as well, and you can get really close to the back end. What you're seeing in your camera. It's a reality. Yes.
What do you mean by white point? Like white balance?
White balance.
White balance. Okay.
White balance. It's just, I'm sorry, it just, it depends on how the software of the camera refers to it, but white balance. But the...
No.
Let's see. I'm not sure.
Could I say something?
Oh, I lost my
Sure.
I won't be able to.
I find is everything looks good on my end. But as you said earlier about you transported it over and it was all event. We have no control on the other end. So it can get rejected from a show because their equipment isn't calibrated enough. That's
It is frustrating, but you would hope that if they're the ones going through all the images, their images are going to be pretty close. So otherwise, you're going to say, "Wow, red's really in vogue this year. Everyone's painting in red." But you don't know.
So we just do the best we can on our end.
You do, but you can. But it is nice to share. It is nice to share with your friends, and maybe you can. You're going to be over your friends. You're going to be over your friend's house, right? So email them a JPEG and have them open it up on their computer. You can do some spot checks like that. If you're really questioning what the image looks like.
For 3 or 4 different laptops and
Or
I'll take the average.
or email
Or just don't enter anymore.
or access your email on your phone and your laptop. It's 2 different monitors. They should look pretty close. If they look different on your phone,
Don't
right,
shoot on me because it doesn't work.
but if they look different on your phone, if they look very different on your phone versus your laptop or your computer, you know the calibration on one of them is off.
So then you have to figure that.
Then you have to figure that out. If it looks the same,
other somehow.
right? I mean, it's just a starting point. It's all about comparison and debugging.
Simplify it for me. Just simplify it for me.
Yeah, sure.
The problem that I tend to have with my work is I'm a very high key painter.
High key painter.
Outdoor painter. And so, I do all these things you're saying, play around. I'm so glad you said outside cloudy day. That's what they taught me at Lime Academy years ago, like the cheap ways, bring it outside, whatnot. But those filters that you're using, And I noticed with the iPhone, I've just been being lazy and changing my settings to a basic JPEG. Because the thing to remember is a lot of these shows I'm noticing, they don't want huge files. So like you're not doing yourself a favor to give them, so just sending it as a small JPEG.
Right.
But what I'm noticing, and it's maybe the iPhones, because they're like little mini Photoshop processors built into them. That thing you were saying about like seeing stuff in the painting, it's I work with brushwork, and it's like the transitions, especially on portraits, are not as strong as they're showing, and I'll take 30 photos and go close enough. Like I just are there filters for that in any way, or do those kinds of filters
Again, I think
saturation or not really?
Yeah, again, for me, if I'm photographing artwork, I really go to an SLR. Only because but it's really working with the raw. Because when you open up a raw image, raw format, and you bring that particular in your editing software, you're manually selecting all the things that the camera does automatically. You're making those choices yourself. The softness of a piece versus how much it actually sees through the paint. If you're working glazes, I mean, the cameras can be, cameras can be crazy. Yeah. The other thing, if you notice now, they're, with the AI baked into the cameras now, you'll take a photo of somebody, or you'll take a photo outside, and your camera, you'll see it right in front of you. It looks, hey, we're enhancing it for you, and all of a sudden it's brighter and dropping off and it's doing this little vignette thing automatically. It's like, I didn't want that.
That's why I don't want to buy a new SLR. My sister was saying, years ago they'll have like, yeah, I know, it's kind of like driving a standard.
All right.
Yeah. Well, again, manual settings. You can, yeah.
I have a D70, which is like a first edition Nikon.
Yeah.
I think it's up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is that where we are?
Do you know how you do all the do you do it manual?
I am a terrible photographer.
Learn manual.
No,
and you'll never go back. You'll never go back.
I know, but I
it's actually it's not that bad.
Learn to be a photographer.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like.
But it's I understand, completely understand. But if you do learn that, it doesn't take too long. 15, 20 minutes, and then you mess with it for a little bit, and you'll never look back to automatic again.
So are we at the point now where we can ask questions?
Yeah.
What, you're done with your presentation?
Yes.
Basically?
Yeah.
Well, getting to that where you can send a file. That means you have to have a laptop or some computer, not just an iPad, right?
You could send it from your iPad. If you don't have a computer, don't want to get a computer, you can send it from your iPad.
You can.
Yes, I'm not sure about
I
how
don't know how to calibrate or whatever.
I'm not sure about the size on it though.
Because I've tried to do this kind of thing, and I'm thinking, I don't know if it's going to work with this Apple iPad. Is it going to be compatible with? Suppose I'm trying to send this file, and it's a Microsoft that's supposed to get it. How can I? Is it apples to apples? No, right? It's apples to Microsoft.
There's, for myself, what I end up doing is the only trouble for me with doing everything on iPad or phone is the storage, is keeping a kind of a record of my process along the way. That's why I always end up going with a laptop. Now, I know it can be done, saving everything to the cloud. I get that, but I like having things on my laptop. So if you're working, what I'll usually do is I always save my raw file or my large format file, and then I save out versions for I save out high-res version. I save my high-res version for print, high-res version for web, and my version for social media for entries. And I have them in file settings like that. Now, the reason being is because if you save your image to 2 megs, which is what most people require for a limit for entries. I'm not sure where we are here, one
We
and a half,
take double that,
which is fantastic.
4.5.
4.5, which is fantastic. Some will limit it too. Some will be cumulative. If you enter places online, it'll be cumulative. Hey, you're allowed up to 10 entries, 5 megabyte limit, but they don't tell you that it's not 5 megabytes per, it's 5 megabytes for your entire upload. It's like, oh!
So going off that question, actually,
Yeah.
Paul, maybe you can help answer this.
Yeah.
So let's say
Yeah.
someone did send it directly from an iPhone,